Welcome to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, where owners of privately held middle market companies talk about founding, scaling, and exiting their businesses successfully. Learn how to maximize and monetize your business on your own terms. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Susan Carney, your host for the Growth Plus Exit podcast, where middle market business owners talk about founding, scaling, and exiting their businesses. This episode is brought to you by Newport LLC, a cadre of founders, business owners, and seasoned C-suite executives who help CEOs of privately held companies build more valuable businesses and exit them on their own terms. For example, we help the owner of a professional services company polish up their business and then exit at a 13x multiple to EBITDA, which was a lot of fun. You can learn more about us at newportllc.com. Today, I'm talking with Kyle Marinkovich. He's a first-time entrepreneur who's the founder and CEO of Northern Diversified Solutions up in Minnesota. Prior to founding Northern Diversified, he was a successful executive at Cargill. So you can imagine that starting his own company was quite an experience, quite a transition for him. So welcome, Kyle. We're real thrilled to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. You have a very interesting business and a very interesting background, and we're going to dig into that. So let's start. If you just tell us a little bit about your professional background. Is there a common thread or purpose that runs through your career?
Yeah, I have an unconventional path to get here. And I would say anybody in our industry, which is the hemp industry, they all have various stories and really unique, diverse paths in. My undergrad is in history.
Of course.
I had intended, initially I wanted to get a PhD and, either study history or teach at the college level. But I just really had a passion for it, and it was something I loved. My fallback was I could go to law school on it if I wanted to, or I could teach, high school or even elementary. I pretty quickly found out that the path to a PhD for anything in liberal arts, very, very challenging. And so I wasn't ready to jump right in and go to law school. So I decided to go into the private sector and get my first job. And that was selling insurance.
Oh,
so I worked for,
okay.
It's like basically sales was where I was going. And I knew, I knew I wouldn't hate it, but I didn't realize how much I'd love it, if that makes sense. Where, I came out and I'm like, this is really cool. So I love the competitive aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that you could drive it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the complexity of solving customers' problems and kind of understanding where they're trying to go and what their goals and objectives are and how I can help get them there. And in watching, and I sold a lot of commercial insurance, and I sold a lot of commercial insurance to small and mid-market companies, family-owned companies. And it was really, I found a lot of purpose in helping them.
Yeah.
Then I went to work for what was then Kinko's, the copy shops, and selling document solutions. We were trying to get copiers out of building, selling copies, right? I wasn't making copies, but I was selling copies.
Mm-hmm.
And that even went to a different level because it was a much more, again, complex environment, very different types of customers and customer needs. And I loved it. And the more I learned about business, the more I loved business.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was being able to build something. It was solving those problems. It was understanding how you help others. And I really had a passion for B2B. So then I made the decision to go back to business school and got my MBA. I quit my job, sold my condo. I was in Madison, Wisconsin at the time, moved back here and went to the University of Minnesota's Carlson School of Management and got my MBA. Again, more exposure to broader topics. I had a passion for strategy and marketing, and was fortunate enough to get hired by Cargill out of business school, and I was in the flour milling business as a marketer, which is every marketer's dream, marketing flour, which is about as commoditized as it can get. And this isn't even like the branded stuff on the grocery shelf. This is rail cars of flour going to bakeries, going to tortilla manufacturers. And what I learned there was, okay, the product itself is not, it's really commoditized. It's widely globally traded. But how do you create value around that? How do you further differentiate? And what are the things you can do for customers that are beyond the underlying product? And just really was thrilled by that. And then the second thing I learned, and then I progressed into varying businesses across different product lines, spent 8 years in edible oils, worked in different category roles. But what really gave me passion, I found, was being able to help people and helping consumers and improving the quality of consumers' lives. I worked almost entirely in specialties. So I worked on whole grain, gluten-free, high fiber, removing trans fats or eliminating trans fats, reducing saturated fats, doing things around sustainability. So improving people's lives, improving the planet. And I found that was as rewarding as being successful in business. Cargill's a big global company, one of the largest in the world, and I was on a plane a lot across both oceans and work. And I had 2 young kids, and I was really open with them and said, this is not a fit for me long term to keep doing this. I'd like to, explore other options in the company. And they offered me a few things that I wasn't really thrilled about. It was sort of been there, done that types of roles. And there was not a lot of gray hair ahead of me. So I was going to have to keep doing, 5 to 10 years of what I was doing. And I'm like, it sort of planted a seed of, do I want to do something else? I suffer from anxiety. And I take prescription meds for anxiety. And I was actually going up on my dose, and I was complaining to a friend at Cargill, like, I hate this stuff. I get dizzy, I get heartburn, and I keep telling my doctor I want to wean off of this. I don't want to keep adding more. And he said, well, have you ever heard of CBD? And I was like, see, what is CBD? I've never heard of that. And he goes, well, it's like weed, but you don't get high. So you can function. And I'm like, all right, I'll check that out. I like that. So I used a full spectrum tincture product, and I was blown away. And I'm like, what is this? This is amazing. And then the other thing that I was struck by is that their ag is a stodgy, generally boring sector. There's not a lot of new crops. When the kind of the newest mainstream crop was canola. The Canadians kind of rolled out in the 90s. So you don't get a lot of new crops. And so I was like, this is a new opportunity. Given the USDA made hemp federally legal in 2018. And I looked at it and I said, I can take all that great experience and knowledge that I'm so grateful for from Cargill and apply it to the hemp space. And so that's effectively what I did. Started in 2019 with me on the kitchen table. And now we have 16 employees, occupy 11,000 square feet, processing for over 100 customers.
Nice. So, what was that like sitting at your kitchen table late one night, making that decision to make the leap? Was it frightening, exhilarating, all those things?
All those things. And um, the I think the thing that made it maybe a little better for me, what was I? 40, 44? Yeah, I was 44.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in my mid 40s. I was married at the time. My wife was doing very well. And I was able to leave Cargill with a fairly nice package.
Mm-hmm.
So the financial piece, I knew the family would, like, we weren't going to lose our house by me doing this. So being able to manage the risk of it and realizing it could be a long road. And the premise was, hey, this stuff has a ton of momentum. FDA is going to come in. Mainstream food and beverage brands are going to want to formulate with cannabinoids for various functional products. Well, FDA never came in. And then we had a pandemic. So, I guess if you would have told me that those two things, one wasn't going to happen and one was going to happen, I would have probably been really freaked out. But I had conviction. And I'm like, this can really work based on what I know. I did my homework. I have the experience and I have a safety net. And I would explain to others who are thinking about starting a business, whatever that, the safety net doesn't have to be financial, but have a safety net. Have something that gives you the ability, whether that's friends and family and relationships, or it's mentors, or it's, you got the greatest thing since sliced bread, or you just believe that it can work based on the model that you've developed. It's nice having money, but I had to raise money. So I went out, road showed it, and that really, like, you got to sell it. And that's where all the passion from my days of selling, like, I'm selling this thing. And you got to be genuine and you got to believe in it, because investors and customers and other stakeholders, if you're lukewarm on it, they're going to sense that. Yeah. And so it was kind of a combo of those things: freaked out, excited, but I addressed them, I kind of compartmentalized them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the theme that's run through your career so far has been problem solving to make people's lives better.
Yes.
And so it seems like that you bring that very clearly to this new company, but with some innovation possible, a little bit different from your Cargill experience. But tell me about that fundraising, because a lot of private company owners have never done it before and it's daunting to them. What was the secret to your success, you think, in getting capital for this business?
I think my credentials open the doors of the people that I spoke to. So, make sure that you have those credentials, whatever that may be. It doesn't necessarily have to be professional experience, but maybe it's a life experience. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, but you got to have something compelling to get them to listen to you, because, accredited investors get bombarded. They get a pitch deck, maybe 2 a week, some folks. And so give them, what's the hook? Like, right off the bat, what's that elevator pitch? That's a widely overused thing. But in this case, they're going to give you like 2 minutes.
Right.
You may get introduced at a cocktail party. What is going to intrigue them so that they're going to respond to your email or answer your text or take your call so that you can get some of their very valuable time. And then two, if you have any ability to talk to people who have done it before, do that. And I had the good fortune of a friend of a friend who is a accredited investor and who has done very well. They started a business, sold it, and then so they've invested in a lot of different startups. He's like, yeah, I'll share decks with you. You can look and see what works, what doesn't. That was so important. And by the way, when they're a mentor, they may also be an investor. Like they're going to learn more about you. So look, remember that it's not just, they can't be, they can't be just the ones that you're calling all the time to be like, hey, how would you do this? Or how would you do that? Wrap that in the story of what you're trying to do because they may want to invest.
Right.
And then I guess the last piece I would say is it is so critical to be concise. And, I fell into this. I know a lot of other entrepreneurs who have fallen into this. Like, you're excited. Mm-hmm. Like, look at how cool this is. This is so great. I had a boss that used to tell me, don't tell me how the watch works. Tell me what time it is. And I love that saying, and I still use that. And I think that's very applicable because, again, they're busy. They're getting bombarded. Because they're going to do their due diligence. The idea is to advance the process.
Right.
You don't tell them, like, whet their appetite and keep that process moving forward. And, if you have the ability to prototype anything or make it tangible, so it's not just a PowerPoint, I would suggest doing that. Mm-hmm. Just because, again, in theory, everything looks great in theory. It's in practice that the true challenges and opportunities arise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that advice to be concise and compelling is so important because not only are investors busy, but they're a proxy for your customers.
Yeah.
You have to catch your customer just as fast as you have to catch investors, right? Because everybody's
for sure
just looking quickly and moving along.
It's everyone's busy. And I find, the people who care, who are genuine, whether that's helping with mentorship or just curious, or they have a personal connection and they're willing to give you that time is gold, right? Because there's a lot of people who are just going to blow you off, and you got to be okay with that.
Yeah, it's almost like back in the day, authors who would send out manuscript after manuscript and after manuscript, and finally after 50 or 60 refusals, one or two people would pay attention. It's the same.
Yeah.
I think it's comparative. So raising capital is a thing, but what other challenges did you have switching from being an employee at a large global corporation to starting your own thing and the buck stops on your desk?
Yeah. There was a ton of things. One, I know when people are in large corporations, the layers and bureaucracy and systems and all that stuff can be very frustrating. A lot of people voice that, it takes so long for us to do this. It does, that infrastructure goes away.
Yeah.
And you don't appreciate it till it's gone. So when you're the CEO, here's another joke someone told me, you're the chief everything officer.
Yeah.
So you have to be comfortable with that. I would say learning capacity, being able to learn stuff and move on and just like click, kind of get those boxes checked. Mm-hmm. Things you may have never had to worry about in your previous life. Now you worry about everything. So how do you chew through that? quickly. The systems piece was difficult. Um, the people piece is equally as difficult. And getting, you know, when you're a startup, you're not always the most attractive employer, and you may not have money to pay people an attractive salary.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to find people that have the same passion and purpose and want to work with you. And that can be difficult. One, finding them, but two, also that these people aren't doing it to become, vice president of IBM. They're there because they believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may have to sacrifice some other things like skill sets, experience, that now you have to be a teacher as well. And you have to take them along for the ride. And then I would say, thirdly, one of the things I missed the most was, I was at Cargill for 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had a ton of support, great leaders and mentors who developed me. But I had a whole bench of people I could go to if I needed advice.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the advice, I would go, like, what is the problem? I would go to this mentor, or that friend, or that leader. That tends to go away to, people still and I was very fortunate that I still had a real strong network where I could ask questions, but they're not down the hall.
Yeah.
Right. I can't just go have a cup of coffee with them at the coffee shop and be like, help me think about this. Like, what would you do?
Mm-hmm.
You still need that. So you got to find a way to keep that in your life and in that ability to learn. And then continue to build industry, whatever industry you're in, build those industry relationships early, because that's going to teach you a ton too. Because you don't have any organizational knowledge, right? You don't have that tribal knowledge that, people learn sort of, just almost naturally by osmosis when you're in a business.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that. So those things that go away, you're going to want to make sure you have a plan you're never going to replace them 100%. But how do you replace them to the degree that's going to help you be successful? That's the ultimate goal. Help the business be successful.
Mm-hmm. I think for you, it's even more complex. Not only were you going from a large corporation with lots of support and process and policy and so on to your own startup where you've had a blank slate, but you're building an industry at the same time you're building a business.
Yeah.
You must have added just a whole layer of complexity that you maybe hadn't anticipated, or maybe you had.
That's a really, really insightful question. Being in Minnesota, we had a very supportive state government.
Mm-hmm.
Our commissioner of ag was all in on hemp, so we knew we had that. We had the backstop of, they're not going to do anything to harm us, and they could actually help us. So I worked closely with the Department of Ag and our Department of Economic Development. And like, these people are accessible. They want to help. So we applied for, and this helps with capital raising. Minnesota has an angel tax credit program so that if you have an angel, and I don't know exactly where the numbers are now, but they can get up to 25% tax credit, up to $250,000 on their investment if you meet certain criteria. If you are the angel coming in, and that's what we had, in an angel investor. We initially started with two, and they were splitting the raise kind of down the middle, what we were asking for. And during the course of the pandemic, we lost one of them.
Oh,
so
boy.
we only raised half the money that And I don't mean lose like died. I mean lost because they didn't want to put any more risk on. They were getting clobbered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that angel tax credit and understanding what tools are available for you, that helped with that industry question where it was like, okay, they realize it's high risk investing. I realize it's high risk investing. The state realizes it's high risk investing. So how do we then try and mitigate some of that risk in an evolving industry?
Mm-hmm. So
And
you're,
ultimately FDA never showed up. They still haven't done anything. But
yeah,
thank God Minnesota did.
yeah,
And so we were fortunate that the legislature passed, sensible regulation related to both cannabis and hemp.
yeah. So you're 6 years in now, and you've learned a lot.
Yeah.
You got a successful business going. So what's your vision for this business? Where are you headed?
I think it's such an important question, and it's a question I don't think entrepreneurs ask themselves enough because you're just in this frenetic day-to-day, maelstrom of what do I have to do right now?
Yeah.
Long term, I think by long term meaning, ultimately I want to retire from the business, right? Which is going to require some liquidity event to cash me out. Um, Sort of midterm, we're looking at two things strategically. One is who could we bring on as potential strategic partners
Mhm.
via investment? Are we ready for like a PE? I don't know. I just don't get that sense. And we don't necessarily have a huge problem with liquidity,
Mhm.
but where we have a problem is in this rapidly emerging market being able to scale the go to market.
Yeah.
So with either a mix, it's probably going to be a mix of capital and capabilities. Is there a strategic partner that has interest?
Mhm.
And how do we work with them to grow the business? They put some money in, we hire sales, technical service, get them out selling. But also, are they in a business that's going to see value from their partnership with us?
Right.
So, another ingredient company,
Mhm.
or like we have a lot of co-packers that do bottling, they make edibles, they do things like that. Is there a way that we could take on an interested party there? That's one. The other is getting into non-hemp product lines.
Okay.
So at our core, we're a chemistry company.
Mhm.
We process and we do a lot of chemistry. And we're really good at understanding like solubility and emulsification. How do you make things go together that don't want to go together naturally so that you can create a functional benefit in an ingredient?
Mhm.
So we have a number of different projects in the pipeline that are looking at those. One where I think, fingers crossed, we're real close to getting our first purchase order on it as sort of a pilot
Yep.
for a customer. But yeah, we're always looking at what's next because we know who we are.
Mhm.
Like we can't compete with Cargill.
Right.
We can't, we're going to get whooped. So we have to find those emerging markets or emerging ingredients, innovative functional ingredients that are too small for the mainstream players to care about right now,
Mhm.
but have a tremendous amount of potential and opportunity, and that our capabilities can do better than anyone else.
Right. Right. So it looks like you're doing a pretty good job of keeping your eye on the ball and your eye on the horizon at the same time. And I know that's
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like this. They
Yeah.
go.
That's right. Let me ask you a couple of questions about you personally, if
Yeah.
you don't mind. First, tell me, where were you raised and what was your childhood like?
Yeah, I had a great childhood. I was raised in northern Minnesota.
Mhm.
I lived in two little towns, one called Esco and one called Cloquet. that no one's probably ever heard of unless you're from here and you're driving up to cabin country. But it was just outside of Duluth.
Mhm.
So I grew up outdoors. I grew up hunting. I grew up skiing. Um, we embraced cold winters. Going to hockey games. Always loved football games, and I had a very, very good childhood. I ultimately decided to go to the University of Minnesota Duluth because I love the area so much, and I just wasn't ready to ship off to somewhere, and have still stayed very close with my childhood friends. And the area has a true soft spot for me, and we had cabins growing up, and I'd have girlfriends that are like, "We're going to your cabin. Didn't you grow up in the woods?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but we like to go further into the woods."
More woods.
So
Deeper
more woods. So yeah, it was I was given opportunities as well, and through some of the academic programs that I had fun with, things like Odyssey of the Mind and future problem solving and different more academic competitions, and had a passion for that and was given the opportunity to participate in those. So great education. It really was kind of an area where we did leave our doors open, and you were, be home by dark.
Hmm.
And riding bikes and in the woods building forts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What did your parents do? Are your parents entrepreneurs? Is that where you got it?
Yeah, no. My mom worked for the town I grew up in is a mill town making paper. So she worked in administration for the paper mill.
Hmm.
And then my father was he was a negotiator for the teachers unions. So he negotiated, you know, um, collective bargaining agreements for different school districts
Wow.
on behalf of the teachers.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
I live in a state where we don't have unions, so we do it in a whole different way, but
really?
that's neat. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, for him, both my parents sacrificed a lot and so grateful for what they did, but like he'd be in like these negotiating sessions can go to like 1 a.m, right? And they're just grinding. And so he loved what he did, and he believed in what he did.
Yeah. It sounds like you picked that up from him along the way.
Yeah. Yep.
That's right. As a business owner and a CEO, I know that you're busy. And so I'm wondering, are there any daily rituals or life hacks you've developed to help you keep yourself organized and on the path and successful?
Yeah. One, I, every day when I come in, um, on my way into work, on my commute, I will take a portion of it, and I'll make sure I don't have the radio on. I'm not on the phone. I don't have anything. I'm
Hmm.
just driving in, and just have a clear head, and let ideas and thoughts come to you, and sort of ground yourself. I know you're supposed to pay attention while you're driving, so I got to be careful of how much but it's almost like meditative for
Right.
me, where it's just me.
Hmm.
Um, I work really hard to take care of my mental health. So I take 50 milligrams of CBD in my coffee every morning. And it's to the point that if I don't, the team members here will be like, "Did you take your CBD this morning?" So the antsiness is there. Um, the other thing, and this was good direction from one of my board members, is just check out when you have to. Take clarity breaks. We operate on EOS, if you're familiar with EOS.
Hmm.
And the idea of the clarity break. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 2 hours. Maybe you have to go away for a night, go to a resort and work on the business and work on yourself.
Yeah.
And then, you can't go wrong with exercise. Any type, even walking, it's so therapeutic. Get up, move around, get your blood flowing. Um, I still love to ski, play golf, walk the dog, maybe go to the gym every once in a while, try and go to the gym as much as I can. But I tend to like to get exercise doing activities more than just, and I think a lot of people are like that. I'm not a gym,
Right.
the gym for me is winter when I'm not skiing. But I notice a huge difference in my mental health and my performance when I get adequate exercise. And I love to sleep.
Okay.
I'm a sleeper. So I never beat myself up for taking a little extra time getting out of bed.
Yeah. Well, sleep is equally important to exercise. Those two things you have to balance, right?
For sure.
To be healthy. What are some of your proudest moments since you started this company?
Oh, um, I've had a lot. I think one of my proudest moments to kind of bring home helping. Well, internally proudest moment for me was being able to offer benefits, health insurance, 401k. Like to me, it's like, okay, we're a real company. We have a health savings account. We have, people can see a path. It isn't just I'm working at this startup and I hope it makes it. We give raises, we were able to give bonuses, sort of all that hard work paying off and being able to hire more people and seeing the appreciation from the team members and being able to let them know we're going to be okay, right? We're headed in the right direction. You made a good choice and we hope you stay with us, till the end. So that was kind of more the internal side that I was real proud of. Probably one of the proudest moments for me externally was we have the privilege of serving both medical cannabis companies in the state. They don't want to mess with hemp. They have these big cannabis grows and they just want to run cannabis. And so they outsource all their non cannabis cannabinoids, meaning CBD, CBG, CBN, CBC, to us. And we supply them for various therapies. And those, they're mixing different cannabinoids to get specific results medically. That could be end of life pain management. It could be helping with appetite for patients on chemo. It could be a veteran with PTSD. So proud of all those, the ability to serve 40,000 Minnesotans with now it's a landlocked market. So we do a little in other states where they allow for it. But that's a cornerstone for us here. I got a call from one of the general managers and he's like, Kyle, we got a problem with one of the products. And so in my background, that means it's late, it's out of spec, it's got off color, off flavor, it's damaged packaging, kind of the traditional food ingredient. He goes, we're getting calls that our childhood epilepsy patients are seizing. And I'm like, well, we got to figure this out. And so we dug into it. One of our core values is wired to help. And as part of that, it's run to the problem. This was run as hard as you can, as fast as you can. And so we dug in, we looked at the product, we're troubleshooting it. We're going, there shouldn't be a difference. And what we found out is one of their lab techs had subbed out one product for another product. And I won't get into the technicalities of it, but was like, they're the same thing. I just need to hit this level of CBD. They weren't. And that it's what's known as the entourage effect. There's a lot of other compounds in the plant that help in the endocannabinoid system. And we're like, we think we found it. He used an isolate instead of a distillate. Go back to distillate and see if that solves it. So they started formulating again with distillate and problem solved. So when you're helping a kid not have a seizure, it's pretty hard not to be proud.
That's great.
In the families, and that's a wonderful feeling.
I love that story. And it combines the two themes that we've talked about through this conversation, which is problem solving and helping people.
Yeah.
That example, right?
Yeah.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Last question.
Yes.
What advice would you give other entrepreneurs? What would you like to help them learn the easy way rather than the hard way?
Yeah, I think, I'd go back to some of those same themes that we've discussed throughout. You have to have passion. This choosing to do this is really, really, really hard 2-3 years after you made the decision. A year in, you start to really feel the problems and what am I trying to do, and that problem solving. But if you have the passion, and it's got to be sustainable and resilient. So you may love it. I mean, you romanticize the idea of starting a business, and that's really important. That's energy. That gives you the energy and the conviction again to take the risk and be like, I can do this and I believe in myself. But if you don't have the passion, it'll grind you. It'll just grind you down. So passion is what sustains you after the initial adrenaline wears off. And along with that is conviction. And when you jump, you're jumping. You can't go halfway. And then wherever you can, manage risk. So that, there are no guarantees. Don't bet your life on a business. It's a very important part of your life, but it's not the most important part of your life.
Right.
So make sure you're managing, whether that's personal risk, financial risk, your own health risk. I mean, there's a lot of ancillary risks that come along with besides just the risk of the business. You have to manage that, but also manage those other areas and have a safety net. So you aren't up at night going, oh my God, my life's over.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have near-death experiences. I mean, we've probably had 4 or 5 near-death experiences, and they're no fun, but you also got to be like, well, this isn't going to kill me.
Yeah.
And the reason we've been successful to this point is because when we get knocked down, we get up. So help make sure the mat isn't concrete, that it's got a little bounce on it when you get knocked down, because it's inevitable.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I love the transparency of that answer. I think that's going to help a lot of people to think through some of their decisions.
Yeah.
And it's a great metaphor too. So thank you for that.
No problem.
This is the Growth Plus Exit podcast. I'm Susan Carney. I'm talking with Kyle Marinkovich, who's an entrepreneur, who's the CEO of Northern Diversified Solutions, his first business he founded, and a problem solver and someone who cares about helping people improve their lives.
Thank you, Susan.
Terrific talking to you. I also want to shout out to Tatum Resin, who's the CEO of Liberty Rent, because she introduced me to Kyle, and I've loved that. Kyle, any last thoughts before we say goodbye?
Good luck. We're all pulling for each other, and remember that it's other entrepreneurs, other members of industry. We all have to work together to be successful, and just best of luck, and go for it.
Awesome. Where can people learn more about you and the work you do?
Yeah, we're at northerndiversified.com. We're present on social. We always have posts coming out. Feel free to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to DM me if you have any questions or want to learn more. And just appreciate the opportunity to be here.
All right. Thanks so much. Talk soon.
Yep. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you for listening to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, sponsored by Newport, a unique national business advisory firm. If you enjoy this show, be sure to share, like, and subscribe for future episodes.